everyone. Today we will going to tackle about chapter 7, which is integers, and lesson 4, multiplying and dividing of integers. And now, let me present to you our learning outcomes. First, describe and interpret the multiplication and division of integers using materials such as algebra tiles, counters, and chips and cards. And also, perform the multiplication and division of integers. And lastly, solve routine and non-routine problems involving multiplication and division of integers using appropriate strategies and tools. Multiplication of integers is the same as the repetitive addition, which means adding an integer a specific number of times. For example, 4 times 3 means adding 4 to 3 times. 4 plus 4 plus 4 is equals to 12. Division of integers means equal grouping or dividing an integer into a specific number of groups. What is multiplication and divisions of integers? So, there are 4 basic arithmetic operations associated with integers are: first is the additions of integers, second, subtractions of integers, third is multiplication of integers, and lastly is the divisions of integers. Multiplication and divisions of integers are the most important arithmetic operation used often. Let us learn the multiplication and divisions of integers in detail. So, when we say multiplication of integers, is the process of repetitive additions including positive and negative numbers, or we can simply say integers. When we come to the case multiplications of integers, the following cases must be taken into account: multiplying two positive numbers, multiplying two negative numbers, and lastly, multiplying one positive and one negative number. So, when you multiply integers with two positive signs, positive times positive is equals to, the result will be positive. For example, positive 2 times positive 5 is equals to positive 10, or result will be 10. When you multiply integers with two negative signs, negative times negative is equals to positive. Positive pa din siya. For example, negative 2 times negative 3 is equals to positive 6. So, paano naman kung when you multiply integers with one negative sign and one positive sign? Of course, the result will be negative. Negative. Kasi nga, pag pinag-combine mo, pag nag-combine mo yung negative and saka yung positive signs, the result will be negative. And for example, negative 2 times positive 5 is equals to negative 10 plus. And now, the following table will help you remember rules for multiplying integers. So, dito makikita na yung types of integers, the result, and the example. So, pag both integers are positive, of course, the result will be positive. For example, positive 2 times positive 5 is equals to positive 10. Paano naman if both negative integers? So, of course, the result niya is same pa din, positive pa din. For example, negative 2 times negative 3 is equals to positive 6. Paano naman if isang negative at isang positive? So, of course, the result will be negative. For example, negative 2 times positive 5 is equals to negative 10. And multiplication of integers, rules, and steps. So, step 1, determine the absolute value of the numbers. Step 2, find the product of the absolute values. And step 3, once the product is obtained, determine the sign of the number according to the rules or conditions. For example, when multiplying negative 7 times positive 8. So in step 1, diba, determine the absolute value of negative 7 and 8. So makikita nyo dyan sa PPT. Step 2, find the product of the absolute value numbers 7 and 8. So dito is 7 times 8 is equals to 56. So in step 3, determine the sign of the product according to the multiplication of integers rules. According to the multiplication of integer rule, if a negative number is multiplied with a positive number, then the product is a negative number. Therefore, negative 7 times positive 8 is equals to negative 56. So, let's proceed to divisions of integers. Division of integers involves the grouping of items. It includes both positive numbers and negative numbers, just like multiplication. The division of integers also involves the same cases. So, dividing two positive numbers, dividing two negative numbers, and dividing one positive and one negative number. So, when you divide integers with two positive signs, of course, the result will be positive. For example, 16 divided by 8 is equals to 2. Kasi nga, both sila pareha ng positive signs. So that the result will be positive. When you divide integers with the two negative signs, negative divided by negative, of course, the result will be positive. For example, negative 16 divided by 8 is equals to positive 2. Kasi nga, pag pareho yung signs nila, class, always remember na dapat positive yung signs. When you divide naman integers with the one negative signs and one positive signs, always remember na negative siya. Kasi nga, negative divided by positive will result to negative. For example, negative 16 divided by positive 8 will result to negative 2. Next, the following table will help you remember rules for divisions integers. So, same lang siya sa multiplication ng sa table. Andyan yung types of integers, the result, and the example. If both positive, di ba? Ang result niya ay positive. If both negative, of course, the result will be positive. If yung magkaiba naman sila ng side, from positive to negative, of course, the result will be negative. Gaya ng sa example, if both positive, of course, the result will be positive. For example, 16 divided by 8 is equals to positive 2. If both negative, of course, the result will be positive. If, for example, negative 16 divided by negative 8, of course, the result will be positive 2. If magkaiba naman sila ng sign, of course, the result will be negative. For example, negative 16 divided by 8 will result to negative 2. Dividing of integers, rules, and steps. So, rule 1, the quotient of two positive integers will always be positive. If pareha sila ng positive signs, of course, there always be positive. Rule number 2, the quotient of two negative integers will always be positive. Same lang din siya. Rule number 3, the quotient of a positive integer and the negative integer will always be a negative. In visualizing multiplication and division of integers, we may use algebra tiles, shifts, and counters or cards. So, sa shifts, andyan yung positive integer and also the negative integers. Same lang siya sa tiles, the positive integers and the negative integer. So, in multiplication of integers using tiles worksheet, direction, multiply the integers using tiles. Assign a color integers. Note that there is no negative number of groups. In this case, you will flip your tiles. Sa examples, the positive integer is color white and the negative integer is color black. So, andito yung sample ng tiles worksheet. Sa A is 4 times 2 is equals to 8. So, di ba, both siya both positive signs. At makikita nyo sa ibaba niya yung positive signs ng answer, which is the positive 8. The second is 3 times negative 3 is equals to negative 9. Of course, di ba, ang sabi ko kanina, if magkaiba yung signs nila, of course, ikakopy mo lang yung sign, which is negative. So, negative 9. Andyan yung negative 9 sa ibaba ng tiles. And now, ngayon, kayo naman yung sasagot sa iba pang mga ginawa kong worksheet. Let's create. So, number 1, fuse divided integer times by negative 4 and got 9. Then, she divided 9 by integer y and got negative 3. Find the quotient when integer x is divided by integer y. So, sasagutan nyo to sa isang buong yellow paper. Tapos, pwede nyo siya i-screenshot lang. Next is, use the rules in multiplication and divisions of integers to perform the indicated operation. Diba, discuss ko na kanina yung rules in multiplication and divisions of integers. So, next, perform as instructed. So, number 1, multiply 19 by negative 5. Number 2, how many groups of 13 are there in negative 208? And lastly, divide 98 by negative 7, then multiply the result by negative 3. And lastly, solve and show your complete solution. Number 1, Maki made 5 withdrawals of 500 pesos each from his savings account. What was the overall change in his account? At yun lamang po. Sana meron kayong natutunan sa aking tinalakay ngayong araw. Yun lamang po at maraming salamat.